So I have 9:32 Danish time on my computer. It's still morning in Denmark, so good morning from Denmark to everyone. I'll make a very slow start because I can see people are still joining in. But a very warm welcome to everyone who's here and the future ones who will join. Greetings from Denmark. This is the webinar about consumer healthcare and personal hygiene market in Denmark. And I'm super excited we have a very competent partner here with us today, Pharmacheck Nordic, who is an Nordic consultancy with, I would say, the leading experience on the market. So we have Mona Jørgensen, the CEO and founder, and Benjamin Borbjørnsen, the co-founder here with us.
Yes.
Will lead us through the main part of the program today, helping us all who are here to understand what are the specifics of the market and how it all functions. I think you will deep dive into things like the structure of the market, possible sales channels, labeling, pricing, social media, so a lot, regulations, legislations, a lot. It's a very interesting topic, so I'm really looking forward to that. During the second part of the webinar, we have two very professional and experienced ladies from Estonia, from two Estonian companies, Sirli Mangus from Turust and Eva Maran from Jagavad, who then will share their experience about working with the Danish market and what it all entails and what are the successes and maybe less successful activities they've tried to do here. From the practical point of view, I will make sure that everyone gets the word when is the time, and then we are not so many here today, so I'm just thinking we can even try to make it a little bit less official. So I think when you all have questions, you're more than welcome to ask during the presentations or in the end. And to ask questions, you can either type in the Q&A or in the chat functions and the bottom of your screens. I think it's also on your button. And we can even try that if someone wants to is tired of typing and wants to ask a question, I think you can try to raise hand function, and then I will turn on your microphone. So if someone wants to ask a question, I think we should today make it possible as well to make it a little bit more interactive. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be afterwards available on the AIS YouTube channel. So for all of you to go back to it and maybe replay some of the parts that were most important or relevant to you, or maybe for others to also view it. I think I covered all the boring part. So I think we agreed to spend about an hour and a half here today. So I'll give directly the word to our guests from Pharmacheck Nordic.
Thank you. So just shortly, thank you for the time here today. And I hope people or anyone viewing will hopefully find it interesting, what we're going to be presenting. And I want to thank Lucy for setting it up and her colleagues. And then, of course, Celia and Eva for taking their time also to present their viewpoints on how they see it, and also maybe some of the difficulties or successes they've had here. So with that said, I will open up our presentation. So, as mentioned, as you read, this, I hope everyone can see it now. So this is about the Danish health and personal hygiene market. It's quite broad because there's many aspects to it, and there's a lot of things to try and understand. It can be a complex market to get into, and we have a long experience working with partners from both nationally and internationally. And even national partners also face the same problem sometimes, because it can be quite a ride to go from. So with that said, we are here. There we go. So the content for today is we will be introducing ourselves a little bit more. Then we'll be speaking more thoroughly about the pharmacy market, because that's where we have our basis from. That's where we worked for the longest time. Then we will be talking about the different sales channels in the market, because there's an infinite amount of possibilities. We'll going into the market as a general concept, the consumers, as Lucy mentioned, the legislation behind the market, the laws. We're talking about consumer habits as well a bit. And then we'll finish off with a couple of cases from previous working partners or companies that we've been working alongside, just to give some examples of what we were doing with them as well. So that's it. So Mona, introduce us.
Yes, I will start with introduce myself. My name is Mona Jørgensen, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Pharmatech. And I only say Pharmatech now because we started with Pharmatech because we only were local here in Denmark, and then we expand to the Nordic market because we could see that it would be opportunities for companies to not just go into Denmark, but also to the other countries in the Nordic. So we started Pharmatech, Benjamin and I. Benjamin, maybe you have noticed that we have the same last name. He is my son. And we started Pharmatech Nordic 7 years ago. And we started with the background with my experience from the pharmacies. I also will introduce Helle Bæk shortly. This is a small family company because Helle Bæk is my sister, and she's helping us with contracts, mostly our own contracts to our suppliers. So that is the small team. About my work experience, I have about 40 years. That's a lot of years. 40 years experience from the pharmacy market. My educational background is from the pharmacies. I have an education as a pharmaconomist, and of course I have worked at a lot of pharmacies. And to that I also have worked at the wholesaler Nomeco, as maybe you know, as a market developer. I have worked in the Danish Pharmaceutical Association with what we call the quality certification of the pharmacies. I have worked as a key account manager for GlaxoSmithKline, you know, with the Panodil, and also for Nordin, which have the brand Movicol, and also some smaller companies. And after many years of all that, I decided now it was time to go on my own, not any more bosses, but I thought we could do it on our own. So of course, this huge network I have expanded over many years. It had been quite easy to go out on our own because this network, you can say, recommend us. So it has, our work has come from the network. So we have this business model. You can say it is split in two. The one part is where we help suppliers access to the market. So the first we do, of course, we look at what the type of company is this, what are the products. Do they only want to go to the Danish market, or do they want to go into the Nordic market? What are the competitors to the market? We're helping setting the price strategy, as we will come to that later. It's very important to look into the prices you are setting for the Danish market or for the Nordic market. So, and then we also will be a part of negotiation with the pre-wholesale or wholesale or the pharmacy chains, or what kind of chains or store you want to go into. So, and you can send, when this work is done, we go to part 2, which is going out in the fields and make the selling process, make the training for the pharmacist or other interest or stores we go into, because that is a very important a part of it, to go out and make the selling too. If you look at as Benjamin already have mentioned, what are our typical clients and partners, it can be from a mother, daughter, small distributor in local here in Denmark who want to get access to the pharmacy chains here, and we help them with this process and go up and make the selling part of it at the pharmacies, or it can be a much bigger international company who wants to enter the Danish market. So that's quite different what kind of partners we have. And needs, yeah.
So as said, so we are split it into a couple of different points now. We'll go through each point, and then at the end, if anyone has any questions, I think we can take them there, because then you can ask for the whole section. So to begin with, we're going to focus on the pharmacy market, the legislation behind it, who governs it, how it's run, and who regulates it, who can own pharmacies, and so on. We'll be talking about the change, and when I say change, it's because pharmacies are split into groups, essentially. Then we have the wholesalers and how they function here, because they do function differently from the rest of the Nordic, which is important if anyone is in other markets here. Then we'll be talking a little bit about the online markets and how it's developing here. And finally, we'll be talking about the OTC range or opportunities for what you can and cannot essentially sell in a little bit more detail in pharmacies, because it can be confusing, especially if you already have experience with other markets in the Nordics, because it is different. So again, I'll let Mona start off.
Yeah, at the first question, who controls and governs the pharmacies in Denmark? It is the state who controls and governs the pharmacy here. And the pharmacy is single owned, and they have been selected from the what do we call the National Board of Health, who select the single pharmacies to one pharmacy. So what do I want to say? It is there's about 560 pharmacies in Denmark, and the 560 pharmacies in Denmark is owned by 200 pharmacists. So there you can see it is allowed for one pharmacist to have more than one pharmacist. Normally they have about this 4 or 5 pharmacy units, the one of them. There's very control what they can sell at the pharmacy. Of course, they have they're the only one in Denmark who can sell prescription drugs, but they are also allowed to sell a lot of other products as skincare products, supplements, band-aids, and manicure, pedicure things. But we also have this, I think most of you maybe have been into a Danish pharmacy, but there's also what we call a negative list. And that means that there is a list, and it's not complete because it expands often. So you cannot be assured what is on this negative list. But one example to it could be that it is not allowed to sell baby diapers at a pharmacy, but you can sell diapers to adults. So sometimes you think, why can I not do that when it's normal to sell it in a pharmacy? But that is what is controlled. What is also controlled, what called earnings of when you sell prescription drugs. It is also controlled by the government how much you can earn. So of course the price can be high, but what the pharmacists get of it, it is controlled by the government. So and also you can also split the pharmacies, the store in two, you can say, because they have this part of it which is very controlled, the prescription drugs, and then they have the store where they are allowed to sell all the other things. So
we'll get into this.
Yes.
The next point. So
yeah, in Denmark, it is, as it is a single-owned pharmacy, it is volunteer if you want to be a part of a chain. It can be
it can be an
advantage for you to be a part of it, but as it is a volunteer. We here have mentioned 2 pharmacy chains. There is 3 pharmacy chains in Denmark, There is the A-apoteket, there's the A-apotekeren, and then there's a chain called Pharma Plus. We have not mentioned the Pharma Plus here because they have no organization, there are not any administration. So you have to go to the single pharmacist and make this negotiation with him, and he will represent the whole chain. They are very good at selling, but they don't want to be organized in any part. So the pharmacist choose one of these chains to go in with, and you can say what they do for them is to negotiation with the suppliers. They decide the assortment of the pharmacy. They have some kind of training for the staff too. So mostly there's only 1 or 2 pharmacies in Denmark which not are part of the pharmacy chain. So yeah, as Benjamin mentioned, the function in Denmark for the wholesalers is different from the function in Norway and Sweden. Because the function in Denmark is only they are wholesaler. You can say they have the product on stock which are selling out of the pharmacy, and that is the function. If you go to just to mention it in Norway and Sweden, Numeco's name is Tamro, as I think you maybe know, and Chellesen, and they have their own pharmacy chains, which they. So you can say if you in Norway and Sweden have your products in these wholesalers, you're also all in a lot of pharmacies. But it is different in Denmark because the wholesalers here just is a place where you put on your products in stock. And then you have to go out after that, go out to make the negotiation with the pharmacy chains, and you have to go out selling on the pharmacies. So that is quite different. And that's often where we see that suppliers make this failure because they think, oh, we got it into the wholesalers. Now we are in all the pharmacies too. And that's not where it is. Then you have to go further to the chains and to the pharmacies and make this negotiation too and make the training. So that is different. The full sortiments wholesalers in Denmark is Numeco, owned by the Phoenix Group, which you maybe know is a German group, and Chellesen is owned by some Americans, and so you can say they are worldwide too, but that they don't have any direct cooperation. So because you have a cooperation with Numeco in Denmark, you not also have a cooperation with Tamro in Sweden, Norway, or Finland. You have to go everywhere to make this kind of contract with them.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Yeah. So a little bit about the Danish pharmacy online market. It's fairly young. If anyone has experience with, say, the Swedish market, it is very, very big there. But it is also growing. What I can say is roughly 5 years ago, the government decided to create 2 leases, or essentially to create fully fledged online pharmacies. So they are completely run and controlled as if they were physical pharmacies. So they have the same rules for what they can sell and can't sell. And by that, their advantage, however, compared to normal pharmacies are that they have the full selection of what the wholesalers have, because they're not limited by any space. So an advantage is, if, as Mona was on about, is when you have your goods in the stock of the wholesalers, you will almost instantaneously see it with the online pharmacies because they're directly connected to the wholesalers. So they can just sell it directly right away. And then more than that, it's about 5 years old, as I said. And initially it took a bit of time because the market here is a bit slow on getting used to things. But as many of you have probably experienced during the COVID pandemic, essentially a lot of physical pharmacies saw a great decline. especially mall pharmacies, which were the ones that actually had a lot of customers before. And instead now, the online pharmacies basically exploded in revenue. And they will potentially keep on seeing it now after, because people are getting more and more used to it. There are research being done in the markets that basically the Danish consumer is getting more and more used to ordering things online now. And it's taking time, but it's something we see heavily. So it's an area to be very focused on, to say the least. But then we come to the, as Mona mentioned a bit earlier, with the OTC range, or over the counter, for those who don't know. So the pharmacies here have quite a wide range of selection. The negative list was made because, as said, it's only the pharmacies here who can sell prescription. But non-prescription, like painkillers or similar items, can be bought in grocery stores, gas stations, and similar places. And because of that, they wanted to create a market where the pharmacies had a certain monopoly. But because they have this monopoly, they also wanted to limit them from just selling everything. So it wasn't an unfair advantage to other competitors in the market. So therefore, they made this negative list, and sometimes you are not completely sure if you're on it or not. Some items could be questioned, as Mona mentioned with the you can't buy baby diapers, but you can buy adult diapers, and it's most likely because it said like it's a medical condition, and maybe that's why. But you will find some items are maybe a little questionable, and it's a board that essentially decides it, made of pharmacists mainly, I believe. Yeah. But what can you actually buy in a pharmacy? Well, it comes down to supplements or vitamins. It comes down to personal hygiene items like lotions, soap, creams, you name it. Manicure and pedicure items, band-aids, and then of course the whole range of non-prescription medicines. And that's what we will see. So so if you go through the Nordic pharmacies, you go in and visit different ones, you will see some items that you won't be able to find in other countries, and others you will find them. So, but yeah, within the general OTC range, you will be able to find the good range of anything personally hygiene related. So, since we're past the first part, if there's anyone who has any specific questions to the pharmacy market, we'll be happy to answer it. Or else we can move on. Okay. We can take it later if anyone has anything later. So in the markets, you will find that, again, due to how the market has been split up with items being sold, the first one mentioned on this list is called Matas. And the pharmacies used to see them as a big competitor. So we'll go in a little bit more detail there. A very big place to be selling any personal hygiene items, really. Then we'll be talking about some other channels, which are also fairly big. We'll be talking about the retail stores, because retail stores here are very used. People buy almost any kind of thing they can buy in there. The general consumer doesn't have much time, so the more they can buy in one place, they do. Then we'll go into the general online market here in Denmark. And then we'll just mention a couple of miscellaneous stores that are also available, or maybe of thought, because sometimes there are a lot of places where you can sell, but you might not consider it. So you'll take Matas.
Matas, as Benjamin mentioned, Matas is as the pharmacies see it, the biggest competitor to them. And as Benjamin mentioned, there has been a history that the Matas also want to sell prescription medicine, but as the state say, no, we cannot allow that, they agreed to make this negatively. So you can say the pharmacies have the prescription medicine, and then Matas can sell also what is on the negative list. I'm not sure that Matas is satisfied with that, and I'm sure that they're still fighting for getting allowed to sell the prescription medicine, because, as you know, that there will be a lot of customers that also always will prefer the pharmacies, because they have to go there of the prescription medicine, and then they will not come at Matas. So that is something that's still going on. So as mentioned, Matas is the biggest retail store in Denmark within beauty, health, and well-being. And they also sell one of the, you can see L'Oreal and the biggest brand in skincare. So as we mentioned, what is the products and assortment in the pharmacy, in the store, also you can find it in Matas. But Matas also said that they want to be the biggest gift store in Denmark. So you can be inspired to buy a gift and beauty when you go in there. So that is also what the typical you will see is more gifts but they also have this supplements products and all this, and that is also big in Matas. I can't remember if I mentioned I have about 260 stores placed in all Denmark, so they are quite huge, and they also sell non-prescription medicine too.
I think we can also say that Matas used to be a leased brand, so you owned your own store and you ran your own store, but you were part of a brand. But there was a venture company group that basically bought out the entire chain, and so it's very centrally run now. And one thing a lot of companies face is when you sell your products through Matas, you kind of lose control over your own brand, because they will take care of it, and then you'll just follow their lead or what they ask for, essentially, to be part of their store chain. And it's something.
And they also take in a lot of private labels, so you can have your own product that you want to sell as a private label product at Matas. Yeah.
So it's something to be aware about, that you might, if you're a company that takes great pride and control over your own goods, then you have to consider that you have to give up that to be part of the Matas chain and sell your items there. So yes, so when it comes to the personal hygiene and health stores or chains in Denmark, there's of course a lot of them. To begin with, I'll just mention shortly, when it comes to fitness stores, they are allowed to sell food items for those who are interested, or even lotions and creams. So you will find that some of the bigger sport outlets, they actually sell protein shakes, protein bars, energy bars, all the basic things. You'll also find a lot of smaller local stores who are fully focused on these areas. And if you have brands that are focused towards people in fitness or that level of health, then those same people will often go to these specific stores. They won't go to the pharmacy necessarily, they won't go to Matas, they won't go to the grocery store, they will go directly to their trusted source of interest, in often case online stores as well. And we do have a couple of big online, I think one of them is called Body Lab, and they do focus highly within these segments, if whatever it is, if it's supplements, vitamins, or again, food items. Besides that, we also have health stores. Just some to mention are Helsam or Helsamin. As in the picture you can see, it's Helsam. They are very focused on the ecological, clean, environmental friendly items, but it's all within supplements and personal hygiene mainly. I do believe they have some food items. Yeah. But it's very heavily branded towards environmentally friendly products. both how things are produced, where it's produced, how it's like, how you get the ingredients, if it's food items, as an example. But they are very popular and they're growing quite a lot because the segment of ecology within the food industry or even just personal hygiene is growing heavily in Denmark, and it's a very high trend here. But we'll get into that a little bit more later.
And you can also say that Helsam and Helsemin is changed too, and Helsam and Helsemin is also a grossist, that's a wholesale. So if you sell into Helsam, the grossist or the wholesaler, you have sell your products already into all the stores. So that is different from Numeko and Timjø, which also only is on stock. Here you can say at Helsam and Helsemin, they also sell into their own store because they are the chain. So that is different.
Much more direct.
More direct.
So going into a little bit of retail, we didn't mention it earlier, but I have some working experience within retail. So shortly, the functions of the retail stores here is, of course, as expected, food items. But you will find that we have, and I'll list a few in the next slide. We do have different types, and they vary a lot in Denmark, their functions and what people buy there. As I mentioned early on, people are busy and they want to only go a few places in general. So the less they have to go, the better it is for them. So we have hyper stores and or very large supermarkets essentially who sell a full range of personal hygiene items and vitamins as well. So often case from my own experiences, it's people buy it. They buy it a lot. They might not buy a lot of vitamins as from experience, but they do buy a lot of like soap, shampoos, and lotions, all the basic daily needs for taking care of yourself. And you'll find massive sections in some of these stores. And you won't just find the big brands, you will also see more special brands where they only have them in a short time period, or they will sometimes have them for a long time period or permanently, depending on what kind of negotiations you can make with them, deals you can make. But so these groups are essentially the four major groups. We have Selling Group, Group Denmark, Dagrofa, and Writing Group. The first three are Danish, and the last one is Norwegian. So Selling Group is by far the largest. It has the largest store, which is Netto. Netto is a discount store where they don't necessarily have too much of the daily use, but they do have a section of what's called spot buy in Danish. And it's a assortment where they have it in for a short period and then it's out again. But you will be able to find anything from low end to high end. But again, you won't have much control over it, and things just go through quick. So it's not something I would necessarily say it's recommended. However, some of the biggest stores are Bilka and Føtex within Selling Group, and Bilka is a hyperstore, and then Føtex is almost a hyperstore, but it's more of just a large supermarket. And they do sell everything, and they do have expensive brands too. They have really anything for any user because they want to reach as many people as possible and a big audience as possible. Selling Group also runs a department store called Selling, and then they also have Magasin. And these are department stores which have anything. They have anything from clothes to electronics to you name it. And they are often known as more high-end brands they sell there. So more exclusive brands or anything really. Then we have Group Denmark, which is I'd say the second largest group. They run a store chain called Superbrugsen, which have quite a wide selection too of different types of stores. the biggest stores are large supermarkets, and the smaller stores are almost kiosk sizes. They also have a discount store called Fakta, which is quite similar to Netto. But another chain that's quite interesting is, so these first two groups are centrally run. They are run by the brands, they own the stores, they run everything centrally. Whereas Dagrofa is an old a gathering of individual stores that are then leasing a brand or name. The biggest one is Menu. And the advantage with Menu is, again, it's locally run by the store owner. So that means that they can often cater to their local market. So you will see, if you go to the high-end clientele, expensive part of Copenhagen, and you find a Menu, they have goods from all over the world. You will find lobsters from the Canadian Sea, but you will also find more exclusive products from anywhere. So they can be more flexible if you have something exclusive to sell. There's also another part of the chain is called what's it called? It's a smaller store chain, but it's the same concept. Spar, it's called. And then the last chain is Reitan. Reitan is Norwegian. The two stores we have from them right now are Rema 1000, which is also Norway, Finland. That one. It's about a discount store in their function. And then you have 7-Eleven, which is extremely popular here and expanding. It's a kiosk essentially, but they are trying to provide more of emergency or daily needs for consumers. So they're trying to broaden their stock essentially. And they have a simple concept in 7-Eleven, which is they want to be on every single corner
in Copenhagen.
In Copenhagen. So you'll turn around and you'll see a new one. That's their concept. So it's more if you have maybe some food items, it would be interesting to go through them, because they do actually have some more good high-end food items also that they're trying to cater. So that's mainly the retail part of the business here. Then we have the online market.
Yeah. About the online market, you could say that every retail and store Benjamin had mentioned, of course, have their own online store. But we also want to mention Med 24/24, because even though they have the name Med, you maybe think that's a part of the pharmacy stores, but it is not. It is is their own brand, and they sell everything you can get on a pharmacy because they're selling from one of the wholesalers. But because they're not a part of the pharmacies, they can also sell what is on the negative list. The pharmacies here in Denmark are not allowed to sell the cosmetic, but you can also buy this at Med 24. So the product range it's a big, much bigger than you can get on the pharmacies. But it's important to mention you cannot have prescription medicine at the Med 24. Then we had the nemlig.com, which is right now the biggest online store in Denmark, because they collected from all the other retail stores. So when you go into the homepage, you can find one of the store Benjamin had mentioned, Føtex, Coop, Posen, and all the others, and you can choose products from here. And of course, then they deliver it from day to day. So that is one of the few we want to mention here, because they are the most important at the market right now.
Yeah. These are just some examples of some miscellaneous stores. One of them is Normal, which is it's a very big, extremely explosive growing store. They're expanding to the Nordics, and they're also trying to expand outside of the Nordics. What Normal is essentially they buy an extremely big volume, and then they dump the prices for the consumers. But you will find anything within personal hygiene and even some food items within Normal. You will find very big brands, but you will also find some new brands in there. So again, what they often do with their with whoever they are in cooperation with is they buy in extreme bulk for a penny on the dollar. So they buy it very cheap, and then but they buy huge amounts. So you're guaranteed to reach a lot of customers and a lot of stores. And it is a very popular store, and it's a very growing, highly growing business, especially in the Nordics. And that's why they're trying to look outwards. People do buy a lot of their personal hygiene items in there now. They do buy a lot of random food items in there. People go in and explore because we have some other chains, old chains called, you might know, Flying Tiger. We have another chain called Søstrene. These stores were always popular because it's like you go into a mass market of a lot of things being dumped in different sections, and it's all cheap. So people often buy or pick up a lot of items in there. But this store is so heavily focused on the personal hygiene part that people often will buy a lot of different things, new things, even smaller containers, because then they can try it out. Another one to mention just shortly is just as an example of big store chains here that do sell within certain ranges is Veebiseminar. So as the name kind of indicates, Veebiseminar is for babies, and you can buy anything, and people do buy everything for them. So the new families, they do tend to go here to buy anything for it, whether it's food items or the pacifier or diapers or the baby stroller or anything. They go here to buy it. So if anyone, even if your brand sells for different groups, but has some, let's say you sell supplements, and you have supplements for every group, but you also have supplements for babies, then you would also want specifically that here, whereas you would of course sell other things as normal other places, because you will then reach this focused audience, which is often better. So that's that part. I believe that there might be a few questions or something.
Yes, there are a few questions. I'll take a couple of them, and with a few of them we'll wait after later, because I think you might touch up on some of the topics that are being asked here.
Yeah.
But for what has been already discussed, what's relevant is Lise would like to know, where are superfoods being sold? Are they sold in pharmacies or some other of these sales channels you mentioned? And she's specifically talking about wild berry products, for example. Superfood.
Yes.
It's not at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
But it could be at the
yes. So it kind of depends. Because if your concern is maybe more, so if it's a dietary supplement, like again protein or similar, they are allowed to sell that in a pharmacy, because it's a medical thing. But other items are not allowed to be sold there. Those you would find in maybe Helsam even, or Helsamin, Matas. You would find it in grocery stores as well, or then more focused online or local stores.
Thank you. And then the next question, what I was going to ask as well is, how would you sell to Matas and Helsam? Would you go through some wholesalers or distributors who sell to these chains, or how would you approach them?
I think we would approach them direct, because when you go to Matas, and because they are also the wholesaler too, because when they buy in, they buy bigger, large quantities. So because they buy at once to all the 260 stores. So I would go direct to them and make this negotiation. Because of course there has a lot of things you have to be aware of. As you mentioned in the beginning, you have to be aware of what price do you want to go in with, about the marketing, maybe about the labeling and legislation as we come to now. So I think that's not, you have to be prepared before you go into this kind of negotiation. So you know about what price are going to set, what be hvad hedder det, indtjening på?
Your earnings.
Your earnings.
And maybe that's why some of the Estonian companies, producers might be thinking, because it is taking all of this into account, it might make sense to first find a niche partner like a distributor or wholesaler, and then together with a partner approach these major chains.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it, so it depends kind of where on the market you want to go in. If you have to do it through a distributor, or if you have to have something locally at least, or a wholesaler or pre-wholesaler, or if you can just sell it directly to the market. It all really depends on how or
established,
where, how
established you are in the market today. If you are quite new and not represented in the Danish market today, you have to find who can represent you at the market. So maybe you also have to find, where can I stock my products? I have to find some kind of pre-wholesale before I go to the wholesale. And so there's a lot of steps you have to be aware of before you go to the market.
I think
that could help the company.
Because to shortly, as what Mona was also saying, as with Matas and other in the retail industry, you can sell more directly to them. But that's where it differentiates for the pharmacies. They will often not buy in big volumes. The wholesalers won't often buy in big volumes to begin with. They will only buy small quantities. But they also want your stock to be available to them if they so need it. And often case, then they would recommend or almost demand that you have some, like a local stock.
Because they want to make their order from week to week. So they don't want to wait for that you get it in from Estonia or someone else places. They have to be here in Denmark so they can make this order from day to day.
Yeah. I hope that helps.
Yes, I think so. Thank you. And another question came in that could be answered right now. What would be the best place to sell high-end natural skincare products when we don't want to lose control of the branding and don't want to do discounts?
That could be the pharmacies, or maybe Hillsong.
Yeah, I would say those branches. Again, the pharmacies can be very flexible. It can be costly to get in there, but you can have great control over your own products and also the say in pricing structure. We will get into the pricing structure a little bit later in our presentation, but definitely the pharmacies and something like Helsemin or Hillsong are good areas for something like that. Or you could maybe target some. You could maybe target some grocery stores, because I know the retail stores also allow companies to send their own representatives out to do displays or some things. It's more depending on the negotiation that you do with them.
So not losing control would at the same time mean that for the company to be more present.
Yes, so they can actually be part of the decision making to the scope of what they're willing to also provide.
Exactly. All right, I think we take I think we should go on, and then there are some other questions later.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll be talking a little bit about the market as a general. So we'll begin initially by talking about the consumers, marketing, the old way and the new way. Then we'll be talking slightly about the size of the market. Just it's often quite interesting to know exactly what you're going into and what you can expect. Then we'll be talking about the legislation in the markets, governing units and forms. Then we'll be going into the price level in the market, because it's a place where we often see problems happen for our clients, because they're not aware of all the, say, costs in the market or how to structure their prices. And then we'll finish off with talking about some demands and trends and what's important to consider when you're going to the market here, maybe. So initially, the consumer in Denmark. So just some average pictures of families here. So the normal household, if you go by statistics, is 2-point-something persons per household. But that's also a consideration that we move out when we're around our 18s, 20s, and we don't have our elderly living in our homes either. So the families usually consist of 3 to 4, like there's usually 1 or 2 kids. It used to be very run, like the purchase decisions used to be very run by the women in the relationships, but it is changing more and more. And it's an area where you can actually find men are also buying a lot of health products, even skincare products and hair care products. So it's an area that is often overseen, I would say, by companies, but it's an area where you can create a niche maybe, because there is a demand for it. You see more and more classical barber shops jumping up now these days in Denmark, and they didn't used to be there. It just used to be normal hairdressers, and that would be it. So there's a good purchasing power in Denmark. We have fairly high income, so it also means that people are willing to spend money on more expensive products if they can see the reason behind it. People won't just buy cheap because they do have demands and requirements to what they buy sometimes. Then also, I think I'll move on to the next one. So the marketing. Of course, it used to be just TV ads. It used to be the newspapers from different companies, but it is something that's being outphased because it's not so efficient as it used to be. You can, of course, always buy into these expensive ad campaigns and throw money at it. But it's only if you actually have the intention of backing up with a lot of resources, but you might not get out of it what you would expect necessarily. So that's really all there is to it. You'll of course find a typical TV ads in between different channels, and you'll find newspaper, magazine ads, and then on apps or phones or videos or whatever you see. But the more interesting part is the SoMe or social media, because it is very used here. It is heavily used, and anything from bloggers to influencers are very, very popular or interesting to follow. So initially, of course, you have Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, the basic platforms to communicate on. I'll also mention Twitter, but it's more as a platform to communicate with your customers rather than advertise. We have, of course, have blogs that are heavily used. You see some local stores even have their own bloggers, even either from the staff themselves or some locally person who's interesting or famous in that area. So the most important things here are, I would say, almost Google Ads, because it's something that's very often not considered or overlooked, but it's something where if you invest into it, as you know, people Google everything. And the more you are hitting the Google ad and search history or search information, the more people will also be aware of your products when they look online. This can be done through also collaboration with the online stores, of course. They can also probably provide more feedback and advice to it. But it's a good way to brand yourself and get hits, essentially, and awareness of your products. So it's more if you come together with, let's say you're selling something in the pharmacy, and you also have a blogger who's telling about things, and the pharmacies are making like Facebook posts, and you help them design some ads or something for it, then it's a good way of reaching an audience with less investment, but you reach the customer more directly. So, do you have any? Okay. So, shortly about demographics in Denmark. So this is a statistic that's basically taken from the Danish statistics. It's from 2020. Just to give you a rough, quick understanding of it, there's roughly 5.8 million people living in Denmark. It's quite the same as in Norway and Finland. There are more and more older generations, because younger generations, they don't have as many kids as they used to here. So it's in a form a declining population. The average age for those interested is around 40 of the consumers. So when targeting audience, it's very important to consider not just the young, but also the established families. to reach those who have already got their work done, their career done, they got their family, maybe even kids moving out. So it's and then they have more time and spending power to actually buy into these things. I will say young moms, they have huge spending power here, and you will find them just buying tons of things for both themselves and their babies. But it's more growing into the whole market as a whole, and their purchasing habits. So now a bit more on the hardcore side.
Then we come to a huge and important part of all these products, because the first thing we do when we get this cooperation with a company, and I think for you who is maybe already at the Danish market, you have to look at what is the legislation local and in EU, because you have to register your products here in Denmark. So you can have the approval from an EU country, but you have to register it here in Denmark. That doesn't mean that anyone going to look further into it. Maybe after some time there will be, hopefully not, but some problems with your products, and then they will go into and look to the registration, what have registered about these products, and look closer into it. So the first important thing you have to look into when you go into the market is to look at what kind of product do I have. Is it dietary, is it cosmetic, or is it a medical equipment? And as you know, the rules about medical equipment has changed quite lately. So you have to look into, is it the right thing I'm doing now, and what is going on in the future? So the registration is a very important part of it. And what you have to look closely into is about the labeling. What can you put into your label? What can you say about this product? You can not say about some cosmetic or skincare that they will be cure your skin for psoriasis or something else. You have to say that it can take the symptoms of psoriasis and help this way. So you have to be very much, you cannot say more about, you cannot compare all these kind of products with prescription drugs. And that is very important, and you're not selling too positive about your products. So that is one thing I think you also know that from your own country. But you have to also be aware of what is the rules about the labeling. When you come to the Nordic market, you are allowed to write the labeling on what we call Scandi mix. So you can at all time have also Danish, Swedish, or Norwegian on the labeling. So and then of course you have to put on the ingredients, and there can be some issue about the ingredients, because you have to be aware of. We had a list in Denmark. We have as you can say, we had a lot of lists here in Denmark. We have a negative list, and we have this. We call it the declare list. You have to declare if you have any ingredients in your products who can give allergy. So, and right now there is 26 ingredients on this list. So you have to be aware of is if one of your products have these ingredients, and it can be something like limon. This would give the smell of citrus. So that is on this allergy declaring list. So you have to be aware of it's. You are allowed to have it in your products, but you have to declare it so the customer clearly can see that this is in the products, and some people cannot have this. So they have to see if there is any risk of buying this one. And then we have a list of preservatives. There is a list, and I maybe think you know that already. There is some preservatives you cannot use. They can give this what we call endocrine disruptor. So some of them are allowed to use, but in small quantities, and some of them are not allowed to be used. So you also have to be aware of if you come in with some products with these preservatives too. I don't know if there's more to say about this, because as we mentioned in the beginning, when we cooperate with a company, the one thing we do first is to look up what product do we have, what is the legislation about this product, and then we have to follow up of are you following the rules here, both in EU and in Denmark for this. And then there maybe can be on the pharmacy some local rules. They say that is not some part of the legislation, but we don't want to have these products who have this kind of ingredients. So you can even say that the preservatives they are allowed to use, but the pharmacists say no, we don't want to have this kind of products here. And maybe you can meet that also in Veebiseminar or Helsam, because they have the very high quality demands on the products too.
Yeah, you can say there's an old saying, you even told Lucy before, that if you can sell anything in a Danish pharmacy, you can sell it anywhere in the world, because they do have a
high demands.
They have very high demands and a high level of scrutiny.
Yeah.
They will look in detail with things. Some of the staff working in the pharmacies are academic as a background, and they will look down in the molecules, what's in it. So they will, but the good thing is, if it is there, it's a huge stamp of approval because it went through a lot of steps to actually get there. So once it is there, they will take it good and take good care of it.
And that's why many companies want to start with the pharmacies, because they think we started here, everything else will be easier than go into the pharmacy, and we have this high approval of our products from the beginning. So
nice little.
Sorry, maybe we have. I'm sorry interrupting, but there are a couple of questions that maybe would be right time just gonna summarize, because you have mentioned it. Regarding the language on the product labels, so you mentioned Danish, of course, and then is this you call it Scandimix. It's not a requirement, right? As I understand,
it is a requirement.
It is a requirement.
We required it because most companies just don't want to go to the Danish market. They want to go to all the Nordic countries, and it is a lot easier that you have this Scandimix under your labeling from the beginning. So So if you first go into Denmark and you have your labeling to the Danish market, and then you decide to go to the Swedish market, then you have to have products which you only can sell on the Swedish market. So it is easier to make this for once. So you can sell your products on all the Nordic market, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, because as you know, the Finnish language is quite different from ours.
Yeah. So it is still, as I hear it, more a recommendation, because you, of course, can sell in Denmark if your label is only in Danish.
Yeah,
I really recommend doing it.
So the local to the local, but it's more as an effective way of doing it.
And you will share, some cost, of course, because you can sell up the whole Nordic market. So just to explain it, that can be some words which is different from Denmark to Norway to Sweden. So you just have to say here in Denmark, the name of this is, I don't right now have an example, but in Sweden it is, so you just have to make this slash and then the Swedish word and slash the Norwegian word. Yeah. So that's the way you do it.
I think for us who live in Denmark, it's pretty standard. We're used to it, but for someone who has not experienced it before, it's a little bit weird. Like, what is
exactly? And it's because again the similarities between the countries, but again there is differences.
Yeah.
And of course, we see most of our clients they sell it with stickers initially. They just print the label on a sticker and put it on their normal packaging. And then when they start actually selling big quantities in the Nordic markets, they then produce the containers with the actual label. Yeah. So, and you are totally allowed to do that.
Thank you. I think it was good to just kind of clear that out.
Yeah.
No problem.
And the next one is regarding this registration requirements. Here is a specific question for foods, for supplements. So requirements for registration in Denmark if the product is already registered in another EU country. There are specific registrations, right?
Yes. So no matter what, even a Swedish company they always have to register locally in Denmark, no matter what. And it's very important because we do get that question a lot. So it's a good question. And it goes within any range. As Mona said, what we do is whenever we have a client, we look at what their products are, and then we try to, of course, do an initial assessment of which agencies do they have to register with, what are the costs, what are the requirements, just so there's a full, clear understanding of it. But you have to.
So it sounds like a little bit complex process, this registration, or is
oh no, it is not.
It's not so bad.
It is just a registration.
Yeah, so some of them you basically only register with them, and then they might show up on your doorstep randomly to see what it actually is. But it's just a registration.
Also because of if there comes some kind of side effects, you have to know who is introduced this product to the Danish market. So every product has to be registered in a way in the Danish market.
If you should dig into it a little bit more, so if you have the same product of several flavors, does it have to be registered individually?
Yes.
Yes, but that's also a bit. So when you initially register a product, let's say there's a cost to it. What they then do is you have an initial base cost, but if you only add flavors to that, then it's not the same. Then you have a more easy and cheaper register process. So you don't have to go through the exact same thing over and over again. But of course, you still have to register every single one of them because there's different ingredients.
All right. Thank you. That was it for
No
now. I'll let you go.
That's why. So, so price level in the market. I'll say it a little bit in twofold. So the price level in Denmark or the Nordics in general is very, very high compared to foreign markets. I've just taken a couple of examples here. I'll try to put them in euros too. So the first one is just a basic vitamin. It's then a specific vitamin, but it could be anything. This is just a B2. It's 90 capsules within the container, and it's 150 crowns, or about 20 euros. So that is quite something, but people buy it and they're used to it. Then we have Voltaren, which is 185 or roughly 25 euros, and you can always just Google these prices at home if you don't know them. And then we have Bioterm, which is like a body lotion. This one specifically, which is only a 400 milliliter, but it's about 200 Danish or close to 27 euros. So the thing with the price structure here is, as we both mentioned a bit earlier, people quickly get surprised about all the levels they have to go through sometimes. If you're, for example, negotiating with Matas, then it's just them, and it's their costs and whatever they negotiate with and their earnings, of course. But if you're negotiating with the pharmacies, as you've seen, you have, of course, the wholesalers who have to earn their bit too. Then you have the pharmacies. And then depending on the agreement you have, you also have the pharmacy chains. And then we have taxes on top of it. And the sales tax in Denmark is more or less 25%. And it's always included in the price. If you go into a shelf somewhere and you look at the price, that the taxes are already included in the price. And that's important because it's not like that everywhere. But that means that when you're selling something to, let's say you want to sell something in a pharmacy, you sell your product to the wholesaler, and then they send it out. They sell it to the pharmacies and so forth. But it often means that when you have a sales price to the consumer, which here, for example, if we take the first one is 150 or roughly 20 euros, then what you would be selling it into the wholesaler for, because of all these steps on the way, would often be less than half of that. Because of both taxes, the pharmacy has to earn on it, the wholesaler has to earn on it, and the chain has to earn it. And if you sell your product too high to the wholesaler, then there's no room for any earnings for anyone else. And if you sell it too low, then you of course get more wiggle room. So it is important, we feel to say and stress sometimes, is try to follow the market price because we've had foreign companies who have, when they sell it at home, they sell it for, as an example, something for €2, but they could technically sell it for almost €15 in the Danish market, because that's the sales price in Denmark. That's the €15. But then they think, well, let's just sell it for €6 or €7 because then we are like very competitive. But the problem with that is the Danish consumer is very demanding and skeptical as well. So if something is too cheap, they will literally start questioning, why is it so cheap? Is it made somewhere where it shouldn't be made? How did they, like, what's wrong with it? What is literally wrong with the product? So it's more healthy to just simply follow a healthy range within the competition, because you will maybe get more out of yourself, but the consumer will also see it as a natural competition. And that's why it's also important for us to say, as mentioned earlier, people are willing to spend money if they can see the reason behind it. So companies shouldn't be so scared necessarily of having the consumer purchasing things for a good price, because if they can see the reason for it, if they can see it's produced the correct way, it's ecological, it's friendly towards everything, and even the company maybe is donating surplus to organizations or so on and so on, then they can see the reason behind it, and then they don't mind spending a little bit more than what they're already spending. And that's an important key in the market. So then we have, finally, before we get to the cases, demands and trends. Yeah. So just shortly, essentially the consumers here are fairly educated, and they set higher and higher demands. As if people from the outside know anything about the Nordic, it's very green energy and trying to develop more healthy ways of doing things. So shortly, we have a saying that's called fra jord til bord, which means from the ground to the table. So people would like to know the whole process, like how is it produced? Where are you getting the things from? Is it just something you send out to the middle of, did you send it to Asia, or did you actually produce it at home? Did you use locally ingredients, like locally sourced ingredients? Or again, do you just get it from somewhere else? Then it's very important to be eco-friendly and environmentally friendly. And then lastly, I'll mention that something we see positively here is if you have a very open, transparent, and available or accessible company. Let's say you have a very active Twitter profile where consumers can actually talk to you. Then you will also find that the Danish consumer might be skeptical, but they're also very loyal. So if you actually engage with your audience or your consumers here, you will also find that they will become ambassadors for you, because we go a lot by trust. And if someone I trust recommends me something, I will almost buy it. And it's the same thing. The pharmacies are extremely highly regarded. It's truly a stamp of approval. So if a pharmacy recommends your product, then almost anyone will buy it, even if it's more money, even if it's something new. As long as they recommend it, people will follow them, because we go a lot by trust here. And we are very loyal, but very skeptical. So, yeah, did you want to,
Yeah, I just want to make it shortly about two of the marks. We have this we call astma allergy Denmark, and it means that this product don't send any ingredients which can give this allergy, and it is a private marking. So it's not from the government, it is a private. Yeah. And then we have the sworn market, which is very important because they have very high demands to environment. They want to take care of what we call the health, and the quality of their products is very high. And it's not products we mentioned today. It can also be wood you use, or when you build a house or something else. So it's a very broad. Yeah. Labeling, yeah.
But some consumers do look for them. They very much look for these almost like stamps of approval, you could say. And it's very important to them because with so many products and so little time, they will just, if they see 3 different lotions and only one of them has it on it, but they don't know the other ones, they will take the one with the label on it because that's what they can then count on, again, with the trust in the system. So yes, so that was about that. So if we have any questions, else will be okay. So we have 2 cases to present. It's previous clients of ours, just to go through what we did with them. So Mona will take the first one.
And then I will begin with the beginning because we were talking about what our business is and what we recommend offer. Yeah. And then we have been through the pharmacies and other retail stores, and now we ended up with 2 companies we had worked closely to, and one of them is Australian Body Care. And maybe you think Australian Body Care, of course, they come from Australian, but no, it is a very Danish old company with but they get the oil from what's called tea tree oil. You maybe know it, of course, from Australian. It is they are selling the products all over the world today, and it has expanded extremely highly the latest year. They have been on the pharmacy for maybe 25 years ago in all pharmacies, but then the pharmacies decided to, because they are on this ingredient list of they have this ingredient tea tree oil which can give this allergy. So all the pharmacy decided they could sell it, but they don't want to sell it. So they take it out of all the pharmacy at once, and then the company decided to go to Matas and somewhere else. So it has been sold in Denmark for many years, but not very much. But then they decided the company was sold, and they got this new owner, and he come from the pharma branch, and he decided I want to go into the pharmacy. And it was about 5 years ago. So we were contacted, and we got this corporation, and they make this rebrand of the products. And it was what you can call a job up of the mountain, because it was the pharmacy didn't want to take it. It's because of this tea tree oil. So, but when they changed this branding, we decided to go out to the single pharmacies and convince them that you are allowed to sell this product. It contains tea tree oil, but it's only a small part of tea tree oil which have this limone, this citrus smell, and you can see in a lot of products else. So with a lot of training on the pharmacies, very good, strong marketing from the company. They use this social media a lot. And just to make this small, after I think 3 years, it succeeded to now today they are in all pharmacies chains. They cooperate with the chains and is in all pharmacies. And the assortment has expanded a lot. So every time they see some skincare problem, they just make a new product for it. So today they are in all over the world. Yes. And a huge selling product. You can see it everywhere, I think, when you go in Denmark. It's not just the pharmacies, it's also the Matas, it's Helsamin and Helsam and all other stores you can see. So quite huge today here in Denmark.
And you can say, even though the director of the company had experience working within the industry, he still used us for our recommendations and guidance and our contacts.
Yeah, because his experience was from the prescription market. Yeah. So he wants to, of course, go into more the selling market, the OTC market, to sell his products. So yeah.
Yeah. Then finally, just as an alternative to it, Clear Blue, for those who don't know, is owned by Procter & Gamble. And they were facing the problem that they were selling in the pharmacies in Denmark, but they essentially weren't selling what they wanted or expected. And they have tried over different times to improve their sales with different techniques, but it wasn't really up to their expectations. So we were contacted by them as well. And even though they have an office, they have plenty of personnel, they still decided to try and outsource it a bit and get some more focused expertise, you could say. So what we mainly just did for them was essentially go out and try to reinvigorate and activate their market by visiting the stores again, because you could say that their pregnancy test was a bit more pricey than the average pregnancy test. So it's more, again, explaining why it's good, what the difference is, how you can use it, and then activating the market. Because as to that, a demand that is in the pharmacies now is they want activities, because they are tired of companies used to just make an agreement, sell it on the pharmacies, and then they left it. The problem is they got flooded in products, so they wanted companies to actually take ownership and be part of actually activating sales. So they want activities. They want people or companies to help them maybe make some stuff for Facebook, or maybe some advertisement, or actually come out and train the staff. Be a partner, an actual partner, rather than just someone who's just sold it and then moved on. And that's a very high trend we see. And that's also not just from the pharmacies, but also from the wholesalers. They also expect to see some kind of marketing plan and activities before they will just say yes to something. So that was our presentation. I think we got through everything. So let me see if I can stop sharing here.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It was very, very insightful and inspiring for all of us, I believe. At this point, because I took the questions along the way, so at this point there are no questions that should be answered now, but of course the Q&A is open, so if anyone thinks of something else to ask later on, please type in, because you will stay with us for a little longer, Benjamin and Mona. And now we give the word to Sidley from Turust, who's going to talk a little bit what they've done here in Denmark.
Yes. Hello. Thank you, Pharmatech, for your interesting presentation. My name is Sirli, as Lucy said, and I was quite surprised actually that she invited me to speak. Because I gave her a little description of our experience on the Danish market and said that that is not a high priority for us at this moment. But she still thought that maybe it's a good case study for other companies to hear about. And I know that several of you have already heard our story as well, because I've spoke about it before. So we are Turust. You can check it out, turust.com, if you wish. We are producing natural cosmetics, and we are harvesting, extracting the peat from the ground to make really effective functional cosmetics. So our targeting is not so high and low end, is more like functional cosmetics, like very targeted to solve problems, and also everything that is around that area as well. So our story with Denmark started so that there was, I think it was 5 years ago, there was a girl from Estonia who was living in Denmark for years already, and she contacted us herself and said that I like your products and I would like to sell them here in Denmark. And so at that point we're not still so much into investing in that way. So we said that if you are willing, we can train you, we can give you products for marketing purposes. And if you are willing to do it so that we don't have to pay you like a monthly salary, then of course, if you can get it working and everything, then you will get your percentage and it will be very good. for you. So we started working with her, and obviously after a little less than a year, she was already exhausted. And she was like, I can't really work without pay, you know, and it's like, and we knew that this was going to happen, but that was not actually our target market. So, so it kind of dropped somehow. Then we were in contact with Organic Estonia, and we were like there having discussions in a roundtable. And they proposed that we will present some Estonian products to the business advisors in the embassy. And so if we would like to take part of this, then we could. So we sent our products there as well for like a checkup, like how would it do on the Danish market. And well, they got back to us after a few months, saying that you will definitely need an like a natural or organic certification. That this is super important in Denmark, and even if you do have like 3 products that are 1 or 2 ingredients, and everyone can really read and see that it's natural, then it's very important to have that certification. And by that time, we were already on the Danish markets within 2 months. And what happened was that one of our board members dropped out. There was a little exchange, and we teamed up with a Dane. So there is actually one person owning a part of our company is a Dane. So that made things so much easier for us. Hence my recommendation, definitely get a local person, preferably a Dane, so that there is someone for you who can speak in Danish and know the culture, and really like everything that you were saying about trust before, this is quite important there, and then things can work really fast. So we hooked up with this partner who is now our exclusive distributor. Many things have happened in between. We went in like really ambitious and got a lot of experience from that. However, at this point, our sales to Denmark are microscopic. And but still, yeah, there are some things that maybe can be helpful to others. So a few years ago, I was at this now is regarding the cosmetic industry, obviously. So a few years ago, I was at the Beauty Copenhagen trade show for cosmetic products, because it was a time that I could participate, and our distributor went there with their company. And I was completely blown away, because I had heard something similar that the last performer was just saying. But then I went there and I was kind of shocked by the how different it was, what we expected from the beauty industry. And I became friends with our distributor more within those days. And she filled me in with the background of the cosmetic industry. And actually at that time, maybe it has changed now, but at that time, the natural cosmetics segment was really catching up very slowly. And most of the people were still into like boutique brands, very well-known brands, or local brands. And there were not a lot of them, like not a lot of local, very natural brands. So what happened was that there were people coming to the trade show, and I was trying to speak to as many as possible, business people, and also like people from the street, to get some kind of idea of the market. And actually nobody reveals who they are. And that was like a fact, which was what? nobody wanted to say where they are from or what is their business behind being there. Everything was very competitive, very like hush, you know, I'm spying here, like don't ask too many questions. What also surprised me a lot was that actually the people who I spoke with in a beauty fair, they didn't actually know anything about skin chemistry, which was what? Again, like so different from how we do things here in Estonia. That people have become more aware of ingredients, more conscious, like what they are consuming. But I guess in Denmark, that is exactly why those certifications are so important, because you trust other institutions, other people to make those decisions for you, and then those consumer decisions can be made. So yes, I was really surprised because I was talking to somebody who was really somebody. I don't know who, but it seemed like that. And they were actually asking questions like, oh, wait a minute, you said something about a pH, like pH, what is pH? And I was really surprised that I'm always the person who will start to, because I'm the formulator of the company. So I start to go into the chemistry of the skin and the products and like really go a little bit too detailed, maybe into the lab language. And there I understood that, oh, I don't even speak that language. Like, I don't know what to say to people, because when I got a little bit carried away, they already lost interest, because like there was completely like I was overwhelmed, and I usually I know what to say, and it like everything comes easy to me in terms of communication, open communication, but there it was different. So very interesting to see. What my distributor said at the fair is that she had been going there for 3 years, and all those natural fairs, natural cosmetic trade shows, they were very niche. They were very niche. Like all the community, all the people who were going there, also the companies, they were all the same. So a very small amount of people and companies, and the segment was very small. So the market, you think like the Danish market so big, but actually the natural and the organic segment was very small. Again, very big surprise for me. So that's why I went to that bigger fair, to get a kind of a feeling of the market as a whole. And so she said that she wanted to be there like a few years in a row, that when the beauty market will catch up, the natural beauty market will catch up like to the general market, then everybody will already know her, and then it's like exactly that trust issue again. So that then they will come to me if they want something natural. And I was really surprised, because she had like a baskets where all the products were kind of like just thrown in, and the prices were super cheap. And people were coming and they were buying those things, and everything that I heard about the market was again, like it didn't actually work that way that I had heard in seminars or presentations. And at the same time, there were other companies and representatives there who were, I think, selling for hundreds of thousands of krones. Like there was insane selling and buying going on at that trade show. And my distributor was the only natural cosmetic distributor. So it was so weird that it was so different than I thought. I will check my my notes. So we were always thinking about the price sensitive, not price sensitive. Like, how does it go? Because we know that Denmark is not so price sensitive when it comes to the retail price. So, but when it comes to kind of our our design and our products, then it doesn't necessarily like hold up to that. So maybe if there is a brand who is like really Scandinavian, like really light design, very minimalist, block letters, like I said, like white background, and then there's like just a little bit of like writing or something like that. So apothecary style, kind of like this this very simple, and if it's local, then these would like sell pretty good. But when it's like more dark and colorful and people don't really relate to your design, then I think this has been our issue. So it has been like that for a while, because we don't want to have different designs for different markets. I guess that's why our most important markets are Italy and Estonia as well, because this is where we are stable. But Denmark has like kind of remained somewhere up there in Scandinavia. So what I really recommend is for companies, if you are approaching Danish companies, if there is someone new that you are approaching, then not to really mention that you are like Estonians. Sometimes even maybe want to say that they are Nordic or Scandinavian too, or something like that. Then I think it's for Denmark, it is very important not to say that, because they will probably the first panelists will now laugh a little bit that we know that. That then you will not be taken so seriously if you consider yourself part of Scandinavia or part of the Nordic countries. In Denmark, this is clear for us. This is our experience. It doesn't have to be necessarily like that everywhere else, but in Denmark, it kind of seems so. And I think in Norway too, because I have spoken to some people who have had experience, like similar experience. But in our global webpage, turust.com, we are still saying that it's Nordic skincare, because we are still a Nordic company. But if you are like approaching like a wholesaler, then maybe not emphasize that so much. With regard to matas that you were talking about, so our experience with that and our distributor was that she said from the beginning that she will never go to matas directly, because matas wants her to put in, at that time it was 50,000 crowns. It's a little bit more probably right now, of marketing investment 2 times a year for campaigns. So that would be too difficult for her. So she always goes via Helsam, and Helsam has a contract with matas. So it's easier for the wholesaler, for the first partner, to go via Helsam to matas, but then we come to the price issue. Ta-da! So it's really because everybody should and wants to get like 40% marginal at least. So the markup has to be decent for everybody to sell. But if you consider that you are a small company from Estonia, and then you go to your partner who is partnering up with Helsam, who is selling to matas, who is selling to the end customer, then there is a lot of markup that has to like fill the gap there. So that's why we have dropped that market for a while as a priority. At some point when we get really rich, then maybe we will do that marketing investment, and then it will definitely hold up, because I know matas has a lot of stores, and they can be very beneficial, but as you said, they want to kind of take over the brand as well. So maybe via Helsam, because they have a contract between them, then it's like they will not take over so much. I'm not sure how that works, but that is our experience with those companies. I'll just check what I have wrote down. Yeah, what we learned during those years is in the beauty industry, very important is the Danish Beauty Awards. When you get a Danish Beauty Award, then doors will open for you, and that's an interesting thing that the Danes really take proud in that competition, and it's very highly regarded. And the gala takes place in the Tivoli Center, and it's really a big thing there. So we were lucky enough to we entered a few of our products, and one of them was nominated as the finalist. So there were even the 5 best in each category get their own like a little awards, and their all the marketing that goes with it. So yeah, my colleagues at that time, they were at the Tivoli Center at the gala, and it was really cool and everything. We didn't get the prize as such, but even that nomination already spurred up things a little bit. So very big recommendation to seek out those awards. Maybe there are a lot of other competitions, or not a lot, but some competitions where you could take part. Probably there is something for food and for health and pharmacy, wellness, and maybe those equipment things. Maybe there is something in that segment too. Maybe the previous performer can say a few words about that if you have questions, but I do recommend it personally. And there is this trade show, which is actually important in terms of the Danish beauty market, is the one in Malmo, the Natural Products Scandinavia, which usually takes place in Malmo. But now with COVID, I'm not really sure if they take place and what's the schedule for actually like physical trade shows. We have been there once. It's a lot more efficient than the Beauty Copenhagen, for example, where it's like more high-end beauty, luxurious brands like Chanel, and not the niche that we fall into. So the Natural Products Scandinavia is a lot better place to be, but you have to really work hard to get the attention and get that trust. So yes, I think the certifications probably are sensible for the Danish market. What happened with a blogger? We had like an agreement with one blogger, very famous in Denmark, and she was in contact with our distributor. And she was willing to make kind of like a big campaign from this product. They were talking about different products, and then they already had made that agreement. And she tried one of the products, but peat and the peat masks that we are making, they are very bioactive. So they are efficient. They actually work. Yes. So which also means that you can actually feel the effect while it's on your skin. And that product that she chose, and our distributor also gave her that information, that it's one of the strongest products in our line. And she tried the product, and the skin got red, but she knew that it would. So it was kind of tingling and itching, and the bioactivity was could be seen and felt. And she was still very shocked. So she dropped the agreement that they had, and she was not willing to try any other products, because like she was so shocked that that she was kind of disappointed maybe in the brand or the agreement that they had. But my distributor had already purchased a large amount of these sample products, which would have been part of that campaign to be. I don't know what were the specifics of that campaign, but anyways, it was a sore spot for both us and our distributor. These things can happen because yes, as you said before, bloggers, influencers, social media is very important. So it kind of happened like that. Maybe we will change something in the future and prioritize it more, and then we can get somebody to be that ambassador or a spokesperson for our brand in Denmark as well. With regard to that marketing investment, if you go to the Danish market, then just know that it will be a marketing investment if you want to go somewhere. It's maybe even easy to get on the shelf, but the work and it doesn't sell itself. So yeah, the work starts. So the training and everything, as was said before, very important. With this marketing investment, why we haven't done it on that scale and level is that we had a very bad experience from the United Kingdom, because we were working hard with them. It's a very conservative market. We were working hard with them for a few years, and we got into Whole Foods. So, which was like, wow. And everyone was like, in Estonia, nobody gets into Whole Foods. How did you get that? And just 1 month after we had got into Whole Foods, our partner, the distributor, the wholesaler, went bankrupt. And that is a very conservative market. So you just can't switch to another partner, because you actually have to have 2 years of negotiations and everything. So it was a painful experience for us. And we don't want to make those huge decisions to put in a lot of money and a lot of marketing investment and just oh, maybe it will happen. So that's why we'll kind of checking out the market. But more or less, this is our experience, and I hope it was helpful even a little bit.
Wow, Sirli, I'm really happy I've invited you, and even more happy that you've accepted, because this was such a wealth of information, so many interesting points that I think a lot of us, a lot of our listeners can learn from, yeah, bringing into their decision makings regarding the Danish market. I think it was very, very interesting. Yeah. And this is not the topic of our webinar here today, but you mentioned the trade fair in Malmö and whether it's happening or not, but we're back to business as usual in Denmark. We don't have Corona in Denmark anymore, basically. So we're back to all the physical events and trade fairs, seminars, everything's happening. And I believe the Malmö trade fair now in November will be happening as well. And definitely can recommend it to anyone from this sector.
Yes, it's taking place in mid-November. So it's fine.
Yeah. All right, so I think we move on. Thank you again, Sirli. We move on to, I don't think there are any questions at this point. So we move on to Eva, and I'm sure she has many interesting things to share with us as well. Jaga Health.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eva. I'm from Jaga Health, one of the owners. Thank you, Lucy, for inviting me. Thank you, Pharmatech, for a really insightful presentation. And also, Sirli, quite an experience you have, and thank you for sharing that. So maybe I will start with introducing a little bit more about our company. So I will shortly share my screen. Just because Jaga as itself, of course, by today, at least in Estonia, I believe quite everyone knows already what it is and what it does. But what we have faced in many of our export markets is that Jaga as an ingredient has, it has taken years for consumers to understand what it is. Okay, now I have the problem here again. Okay. Anyway, it seems that the presentation doesn't move forward. But what we do is that we produce an organic food supplements, main ingredient being chaga mushroom. That is a very powerful medical mushroom used in many, mainly Nordic countries in the folk medicine for hundreds of years. And also our original recipe comes from one of our owners' family and has been used there also over 100 years. So our kind of journey to Danish market actually has started from the trade fairs in Malmö. This Nordic Organic, we started to attend them, I believe, maybe even 2015 already, 2015-16. Then we also moved to Biofach, to Germany. And as Benjamin said, that Danes are very skeptic. And only because we have been into these trade fairs for years and years, then we had an opportunity back in 2019 when Danes were celebrating the birth of their flag. It was 850 years, big celebration, and together with Organic Estonia, where our company plays like a leading role in some ways as well. Organic Estonia, together with the Estonian Embassy in Copenhagen, then organized a joint tent in the site where then those days the king came back from Tallinn with the flag, and there was like a trade fair or more like a market for local people. But why it was important was that the prince and the princess also attended this event. And then we had the chance to invite some of the potential distributors to that event. So it was, for a Dane to meet the princes was very important. And it was a very, very nice event. And in that sense, also successful for us. We got our distributor and started to work with her. And she was also very known in Danish organic sector, or no, still is, of course. And so we were very hopeful. Of course, with like every new brand and unknown brand in any market, it's the beginning is kind of bumpy. And also we maybe we put a lot of trust in our distributor to understand how to market our product, because still it's not like a Coca-Cola that everybody understands what it is and what it does exactly. It takes quite a lot of explanation and education. But anyway, we got moving. Even still today, we are sold in Helsam and some other stores as well. But of course, COVID then happened quite soon after we have started. I remember we did also marketing through bloggers or influencers. But that we sent our products to them, and then they posted things, and also with the direction in which store to buy, etc. But again, it takes a lot of time for unknown brand to establish and to be established and to be trusted. So in that sense, COVID maybe from one side, you would think that everybody would like to boost their immune system at that time. And for a while it worked as well. But then again, you need to go back of getting the product known. So, to summarize it all, it has been in a way for us slow, because also we haven't decided to put a huge marketing money under all of it, because we also would be sure how it ends up, like what activity brings what kind of results. One of the activities, actually, what we wanted to do so much was to make tastings in the stores. Again, COVID made it impossible. So what we are doing now is that we are still in the market, but for sure we need to now kind of find a totally new strategy how to approach and how to talk to the consumers, and also how to widen the retail appearance. And that's why for us, for sure, these insights from both of the presenters were very valuable. And I agree a lot with Sirli in that sense that it takes huge marketing investment, and also you need to be sure that these people who you cooperate with are competent, they understand the market, they understand what the Danes want, etc., etc. So we haven't given up on the Danish market, and haven't given up on any other Scandinavian market either, although even if they are basically all our neighbors, it's sometimes so much more trickier to really get into their minds and to make them understand you and trust you. And in Scandinavian market in general, trust is something you need to earn with years. So it doesn't, in any case, it doesn't happen overnight. Bless you. Shall send you some elixirs, yeah?
I'm just thinking about it. I should go to Hellsum and buy some.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe a few, just to summarize it all up, a few keywords is for sure building up the trust, finding right partner, especially if you are in a niche segment like Turbliss or ourselves. One thing is, if you look at it from immune boosting products in our case, but also the ingredients and where it's produced, etc., etc. Although we proudly say all over the world that we are extracted from the north, but true, like Sirli also said, that in Scandinavia, maybe Estonia still is a little bit too much to the east or in the borders of the east. So it takes just more, again, education and explanation that actually we do very high end and very good quality products here. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I don't think there are any questions right now, Eva. Thank you so much for your honest input. Again, I think very, very inspiring and relevant here.
I can add something to what Eva said. We have had the previous clients, again, who are distributors on behalf of foreign companies, because as Eva was saying, it's important that when you look for a distributor, I mean, a lot of people are excited to do something, but they might not have the expertise or knowledge to actually live up to what they want. And that's what we've met sometimes, is that they wanna sell a product. They travel out the world, they found something, they contacted their company, they made an agreement with them, but they don't have the basis for actually how to incorporate that into a functional company or selling things here. And that's where we then essentially supply them with that.
Yeah, and we often recommend them, even though you have a distributor, to go out and in a way have your own represent making store check. So find out what is going on in the stores. Are they trying to sell? Do they recommend your products? Do they know enough? Have they enough knowledge to recommend the product? So I think that's a very important part of it. And you have to, even though you have this distributor, and you have to go out by yourself or find someone to represent you and go out and make some store check and find out what is going on out of the market. What does the customer say? Do you feel well, have a lot of knowledge to can recommend it? Because when we talk about the pharmacies, if they know the product very well, they are very good at recommending it. But if they don't know it, they just try to avoid and take some product that they know. So I think that's it is an independent way to go out and find out how is our cooperation with the distributor.
Yes, I totally agree, because without that it doesn't work, because usually distributors, they have so many brands, and they can't even if they wanted to concentrate only on one brand. So in the end, it's still in your own hands how it sells in the market.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. So it's if we should summarize this session today, is that I mean, by all means, this is a very interesting market. It might seem like an easy market, should be easy to sell things that are good for your health and good for your beauty, but it turns out that it's a very hardcore market. It's very complex, a lot of things to keep in mind. You have to work really hard for it. But it is possible. And I know there are a lot of Estonian companies who are approaching me with products like this. So I hope that today you were able to answer some of the questions and help some of the companies here to show them the right way to go. We might have not solved, or I'm pretty sure we have not solved everything and answered all the questions, but just another step in the way to the Danish market, hopefully. So thank you all for your very honest and deep insights. I'm very happy how this turned out. It was very useful. We, of course, went over time, but I think that's also okay, especially since people will be able to go back to this and view it later, because maybe some might have had other appointments and stuff like that, so they had to leave. But thank you so much. Yeah, everyone who's here is welcome to contact us afterwards if you have any